Welcome to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. This is absolute craziness. The staff is coming together very quickly. Of course, the New York Giants already hired a defensive coordinator yesterday. Now they're starting to add more pieces to the defensive coaching staff, and they just hired defensive line coach Freddie Roach, formerly of Ole Miss. Now, the connection between Freddie Roach and Joe Judge, because you know there's a connection, was when they both coached with Alabama under Nick Saban. Freddie Roach was actually a fantastic college football player. I think he played 3 years there, and he was an all-SEC player, I think, in his freshman year. So, a former linebacker, and he's been a D-line coach throughout his career, basically, and I'm going to go over his entire resume. There wasn't a lot I was able to dig up, being that he's basically just been an assistant coach at the college level. He's 36 years old. He's still very young, and he's going to get hired for the same position that he was doing, coaching with at Ole Miss with the New York Giants. So it's kind of a lateral move, obviously jumping up to the NFL. But some of the things you see on this guy on YouTube and heard when I did some brief history, very energetic guy, a guy that's going to get in your face, a guy that's going to bring energy, similar to like a Robert Saleh of the San Francisco 49ers. I think Giants fans will like this guy. This guy seems like a tough guy that'll bring some energy to the defensive line. I also pulled up a quote there by Mack Wilson, who's a linebacker in the NFL. I think he was a second-round pick this year out of Alabama. Actually posted a tweet trying to inspire the Alabama Crimson Tide to hire Freddie Roach as a linebackers coach or defensive line coach with Alabama earlier last year. So he's definitely liked by a lot of people, and he's a guy with some upside and a guy that, again, will bring some youth to this New York Giants coaching staff. At this point, it goes with everything else. Joe Judge is clearly hiring people that he knows. He just hired a quarterback coach that he's coached with. He hired the defensive coordinator he's coached with. And now he's hiring a defensive line coach that he's coached with. This goes all the way back, like I said, to 2008 to 2010 with Alabama. But nevertheless, obviously he saw something in this guy that he liked, that he trusts, and that he thinks he could teach some players at the NFL level. And hopefully that's the case. But the New York Giants are certainly bringing youth and energy to this coaching staff. And we're going to have to hope, as Giants fans, that it works. This is obviously exciting. It's a brand new coaching staff. It's a completely new direction than it's ever been with the New York Giants. The New York Giants usually are a conservative organization. They usually tend to go with experience over youth and, players or coaches that are unproven. But it seems as if they're trying to swing for the fences, and they're giving Joe Judge full say on the coaching staff. That is clearly evident, because these are not Dave Gettleman guys. Dave Gettleman is an old school guy. Everybody knows that. And that's kind of encouraging, because a lot of people were worried that Dave Gettleman was going to be kind of like a dictator. It seems as if he is giving the head coach, Joe Judge, free rein. And his fans, we have to let it play out. A lot of people might not like this. A lot of people might want more experience on the coaching staff. And I get it. You're bringing in a head coach that's completely inexperienced in terms of being a head coach. Obviously he's coached with Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, but he's never been a head coach. He's never been a coordinator. So Joe Judge is, in terms of resume, you can argue he's not ready for this position. But we got to let it play out. We got to give it a few years. I'm also going to do a video tomorrow. I was just thinking about this. Instances that are similar to this. And I think the San Francisco 49ers situation is incredibly similar to this when they hired a Kyle Shanahan. And I'm going to really go over the similarities between what the Giants are doing and the 49ers are doing. And hopefully it plays out the same way 2-3 years down the line. But we'll have to wait and see. But I think this is an incredibly interesting hire. I also want to announce I'm also going to be doing a video later tonight. Everybody's telling me to make this video on Twitter, everywhere else. Yannick Ngakoue, there's some rumors coming out with that. So I will have a video on that, as you guys have really requested me to make that video. And when my subscribers ask for things, I make videos on it. But I really do like this hire. He fits the mold of every other coach. But let's jump into his resume like I said. There is the new hire there, the defensive line coach. And here is his resume. From 2008 to 2010, he coached at Alabama, the same place where he played, as a strength and conditioning coach, which is where he met Joe Judge. Joe Judge at that point in time was a special teams assistant coach, I believe, which was the same position that he had when he went to the New England Patriots before getting promoted. In 2011, he then went to East Mississippi Community College to be a defensive line and strength and conditioning coach. And if you look at this guy's jacked. You know, I think you get why he's probably a strength and conditioning coach. 2012, he goes to Murray State to be a defensive line coach. 2013 to 14, he goes to South Alabama to be a linebackers and defensive ends coach. Then 2015, 2016, he goes back to Alabama, where he initially started as a player and as a coach, and he became the director of player development. And then finally, for the last 3 years, he's been with Ole Miss as a defensive line coach. So there's his resume. It's all college-based. It's all SEC-based for the most part in terms of his major programs. And, yeah, like I said, the connection there is obviously where he started with Alabama. That's where he coached with Joe Judge. And that's obviously where Joe Judge, who's a very smart man, got a very good impression of Freddie Roach. A good enough impression that he's willing to promote him in the same position that he's currently in with Ole Miss to the New York Giants. Next thing we're going to bring up about Freddie. This is just, going a little bit more into the detail about his experience. Roach spent time at Murray State, South Alabama, and East Mississippi Community College before making the transition to Ole Miss. He instills technique, hard work, and violence at the point in terms of the defensive line play. In fact, it was these self-made skills that guided him to the National Freshman of the Year when he was a player. Freshman All-American, two-time All-SEC second-team honoree, and Alabama's All-Decade team for the 2000s in his tenure with the Crimson Tide. Another funny thing that I wanted to point out, he wasn't drafted. He was an undrafted free agent, I believe, picked up by, you guessed it, the New England Patriots. Now, he didn't play. I don't think he ever made the team, but the Patriots did pick him up, which I just thought was interesting, being that this is where everything stems from. Everyone has some kind of connection to the Patriots that's being hired by the New York Giants now under Joe Judge. Next thing I wanted to pull up was what I was talking about earlier. Former players vouching, and he didn't even play for him. But I guess, he played against him in the SEC. Roach, a former Alabama standout player. So, that's right. He coached for Alabama probably in his freshman year with Mac. Roach, a former Alabama standout player, has been on the staff at Ole Miss for 1 season prior to landing his current job in Oxford. Roach served as director of player development in Tuscaloosa. Based on his previous accomplishments in Tuscaloosa, there's a good chance Wilson isn't the only one campaigning for Roach to return to his alma mater. That's referring to Mack Wilson, who I talked about earlier in this video. And then this is what Mack Wilson had to say in a tweet. This was dating back to February 9th, 2018. I recommend Freddie Roach for the D-line coaching job. My dude. So there you go. There's a former player that is vouching, or actually it was a current player at the time that was vouching for Freddie Roach to go back to Alabama. So that's just an example of players that, obviously like him as a coach, like him as a person, and as a teacher, which is where all this goes back to, as Joe Judge likes to say. But like I said, this just fits the direction of this coaching staff, and I expect the offensive coordinator to be similar, somebody that has worked for Joe Judge. And like I said, I keep hinting at it, we'll have to wait and see if they do decide to go with Freddie Kitchens. But Roach is the defensive line coach for the New York Giants. And if you look at the Giants' defense, that is definitely the strength of this defense right now, especially if you bring back Leonard Williams. You definitely have a very strong defensive front there between Leonard Williams, B.J. Hill, Dalvin Tomlinson. You got a lot of moving parts there with the defensive line, and it'll be interesting. And it's going to be important. It's going to be an important job, defensive line coach, especially in the system that is going to be implemented, because you're going to be running both a 3-4 and a 4-3. You're going to have rotating parts. You're going to have to mix and match, find your strengths in your players. So there's a lot of versatility in this system. So you're going to need, much like I said with Stefanski, you're going to need secondary coaches, not the actual secondary, guys that are on the lower tier, underneath the coordinators, to really do a good job here, because there's so much versatility to both the offense and the defense, but specifically the defense. It sounds as if it's going to be pretty complex. They're going to be running some 4-6, some 3-4, some 4-3. So this is an important hire here, and hopefully Freddie Roach could get the job done. Like I said, I did see some YouTube videos on him. You can check that out. I think there was a video on Facebook as well. The guy is definitely one of those raw guys, right? One of those guys that's an energy guy, and he's young, very young. We're bringing in a lot of young coaches, 36 years old. And like I said, hopefully it all works out. But at this point in time, you've got to get behind this coaching staff. You got to get behind Joe Judge, and you got to hope it works out. You can't be negative. What's the point of being negative? I know some people want experience, and, I said after they hired him, I would have preferred experience. But the most important thing for Joe Judge is to be comfortable. And if these are the guys, he clearly had a plan. This is developing quickly. If these were the guys that he's most comfortable with, I'm sure he's been planning this out for years. His dream job is to be a head coach. And don't think that a guy that's as smart as him, while he was moving up the ranks, was not evaluating other potential coaches to be a part of his staff if and when he became a head coach in the NFL. And I'm sure Freddie Roach was one of those guys, as was Stefanski. So, really interesting hire here. We'll have to see if Freddie Roach is his guy to offensive coordinator. Anything comes out, I will let you guys know. But there is a new defensive line coach, and that is Freddie Roach. So get used to him, New York Giants fans. Hopefully all these guys are here for a while, and we win a couple of Super Bowls a couple years down the stretch. We'll have to wait and see. But as always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.